Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And this video is a little different today because I have finished up releasing Street Man Fighter onto YouTube. I thought this would be a really fun follow-up video, allowing some time to pass at the conclusion of Street Woman Fighter and Street Man Fighter for myself, to kind of sift through a couple of different topics that a lot of people in my comments have been asking about. This is one of the ones that we're going to be tackling today. My personal top 3 worst judgment calls on the Street Fighter franchise series. Now, what's interesting about this is I'm going to do my best to articulate why I would make these the worst calls, but also note for both of these series, I did not watch the actual episodes. I was going off of the commentary and the discussions that we had in the comments of these videos, and that really helped me glean and understand what was really truly like a bad call and what was like just based on preference and based on criteria, this, that, or the other. But after watching all of it, because remember, I've seen season 1, season 2, and of Street Woman Fighter and first season of Street Man Fighter. I've seen it, I've caught up in that point, and I am on Street Dance Girl Fighter. That's completely separate. Judging is fine on that because it's the mentors. I can't wait to talk about this. So, we're gonna go in from 3rd to 1st place in terms of ridiculousness, I think, for myself. So feel free to have a field day in the comments for this. Coming in at number 3 is going to be LACHICA's MEGACREW, their placement from the first season of Street Woman Fighter. Now, honorable mention would be EODDAE from Street Man Fighter, their placement in MEGACREW, but I can justify why they got that placement way more than LACHICA's placement in Street Woman Fighter. So when I was talking about EODDAE, when I did my whole analysis on the MEGACREWs for Street Man Fighter, every crew was very good, just like Street Woman Fighter. Difference is with EODDAE, they really sacrifice a lot of complexity of their content for the sake of the overall aesthetic of usage of their props, as well as the gimmicks and creative formations and positions and visuals that they were making. And I feel that, you know, them being placed where they were, I personally wish that we got to see more appropriate commentary or criteria justification from our judges from that section, but their placement, all in all, when you think about how well all those MEGACREWs looked, it didn't really bother me as much, and they ended up 2nd in the whole show. So we're glad that they at least made it to finals. That was awesome. LACHICA. This MEGACREW that they did, I was emotionally, you know, I had an emotional response to it just out of the sheer appreciation for how they really tried to dive into the aesthetic of, you know, Beyonce Homecoming. They added stepping in there, really great utilization of Vogue and whacking. Honestly, it was one of the most textbook ways of a MEGACREW to be represented in any context. You had levels, you had staging, you had proper spacing, you had overall cleanliness, you had really great features throughout your set. You also had complexity of content. You also had authenticity within the styles represented. So they really had the full package. And I would have been okay with their placement if the judges actually gave decent feedback on it. Because a lot of you guys were saying that the judges were basically like, this just looks like a Beyonce 2.0. Yo, like, that's not a justifiable reason at all to say, this wasn't good because of this one little micro tiny facet that you didn't like the concept. That's not your job as a judge, is to completely base your entire results on your preference on whether or not you liked it. That's not how it works. Most of the time, especially in adjudicated senses of like a super competitive field, judges have to remove their subjective emotional opinion about it. You look at it, okay, do I like the concept? Maybe not, but they did all these other things exceptionally well. So they have to be rewarded in some way, shape, or form. They shouldn't be punished for your preference. It's kind of where I'm coming from with that, and that's why I kind of stand with it being in the top 3 for me of really bad calls made in the Street Fighter series. Coming in at number 2 is EODDAE not receiving main dancer in the dance rank mission for middle group 1. This caused a field day in the comments whenever I reacted to the auditions, because we know EODDAE's choreo was chosen to be the one that is looked at in the audition process. Now, at the end of the day, when you hear the track Sweaty and you see 1 Million's choreography to it, I like what they did, and I think it was a really nice, it was nice. However, if you're going off of the structure of the show or how you're looking at, okay, the members of the group chose EODDAE's choreography. They did it. They performed it. The only group that did it the way that it was aesthetically supposed to be done was EODDAE. Honorable mention, I have to give it to Just JROC. They really did a great job holding it down. 1 million, Yumeki did it really well. His partner, however, did it similarly to some of the other groups. So their cohesion as a duo was not as proficient as it could have been. So I personally think it was not a good call based on how they were choosing the other dancers from the Dance Rank mission. They awarded it to WOOTAE for the sub-leader mission. Do I think J-Ho could have taken it? Absolutely. When it comes to the leaders, I did not get a chance to see the smaller group, but I liked how Vata did his choreography. They awarded him the win for that, even though you had other people kind of really step up to the plate on the choreo. And so for me, I feel that based on how they were awarding choreographers of the audition pieces, they should have been the easiest call, but it turned into the biggest blind side of, I think, the entire franchise in regards to the discussions that I've had with people. I completely agree. EODDAE should have gotten it for the fact it was their choreography. They were the only group that was 150% cohesive for every single time they did it, as well as the overall aesthetic of the content, obviously because it's theirs, but they looked well independently as well as together. And when you have a duo, that's important. Look at Street Woman Fighter Season 2 with Waxy and Yoonji. That is a prime example of how EODDAE came across. But imagine Waxy and Yoonji not getting it, but somebody else, like Superkill, getting it. It's kind of like that, but Superkill even held their own way more than the other groups did from Street Man Fighter. So that's why it comes in at my number 2 and not number 1, because my number 1 is the TRIX versus JROC battle from eliminations against Prime Kings and B2B. Here is why this is my top spot. Even though honorable mention goes to Ochan versus TRIX in the very beginning battles, that one I already kind of did an analysis on. And also, side note, all of these that I'm referencing, I have done analysis on. If there is a battle that you really feel that was unjustly marked, let me know, you know, because there's a good chance you're not the only one, right? But going back here, Ochan versus TRIX, I do feel like that was a really close battle, and I can understand why TRIX took it, but I would have gone with Ochan. But it was really tight. It was a lot closer there in comparison to the TRIX and JROC. Here's why this one is my worst call of the entire Street Fighter franchise for 2 reasons. Firstly, when you look at the quality of movement from both of what they brought in their single round, I'm not talking about in general, we're not talking about JROC from 5 battles ago, we're talking about JROC in that one round. TRIX took it 150%. He did. I did a whole analysis on it, so I will save you the discussion on it, but we can talk about it in the comments. Second thing, when you think about how the ranking ended up finalized, if TRIX won this battle, they would have continued on in Street Man Fighter. And my concern, because remember, you guys were the ones that helped me understand the full context of why in the world this craziness happened. TRIX and JROC were asked to do a rematch for the sake of entertainment. That is the biggest no-no you do as a judge. You make your decision and then you can request those things. You are not a spectator. You are there to do your job, which is to adjudicate. Whatever happens, okay, great. You do it, you move on. And if time permits, if you want to see an exhibition, then go have a freaking exhibition battle between your leaders. Do not pull mess like that when there is eliminations on the line, like what we saw, as well as we saw a lot of you were telling me about how TRIX was mentally affected by that battle. And I wouldn't blame him. You know, the fact that he gave everything and then he couldn't give barely anything because the whole point was a leader battle, 1-rounder. It wasn't a 3-rounder or a 2-rounder. So there's no reason to take a battle that was very obviously who won that. Don't do it based off of your childlike tendencies to be like, okay, I want you to go and I want you to compete again. yo, that is so disrespectful to what they just brought in the first round. And for the entire context of what this is the first elimination of the show. This is an elimination 3 where we're get to have fun, you know, and we want to make it to finals and this, that, or the other. Okay, that's great. But in the very first one where you're the first crew eliminated before Mega, like, that's a really, really sensitive, heightened elimination battle in comparison to all the other ones that we end up seeing. So for me, that's why I personally feel like, because this is my own personal opinion based on what you guys have disclosed to me about the show, because I haven't watched it, but I've heard the dialogue from these analysis. That's why that's the worst call for me, is because of how the complete ignorance of not understanding your job, and to think that you can just do something like a spectator or demand like somebody who's making a request. Like, no, that's not appropriate for your job role. And I do ask that in the future, if we see judges, if we have a Street Man Fighter Season 2, which would be really nice, and I would be hopeful for that, because I would love to see the redemptiveness of the judges that they have on the panel. Because this right here, the fact that 2 out of my 3 worst calls in the entire franchise, and I've reacted to all the franchise, and 2 out of the 3 come from Street Man Fighter for similar reasons, that means that we have a discrepancy when it comes to how that was adjudicated from the forefront, right? So, I mean, remember too, with this type of video, I'm really just making it as just a show. I'm a human, and I also have personal feelings with some of this stuff. Whenever I isolate myself from the analysis and I just talk about what do I think's not fair, that's just how I feel, you know? So here's the thing. I am always open-minded to understanding other perspectives of things like this. If you are somebody who understands the full scope of the judges, did they feel remorse? Did they feel like they made a bad call? This, that, or the other? Please let me know, because it's really nice to know that people are going to have change of heart, or they're going to ask for forgiveness in some way, shape, or form, you know? But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the natural consequence of whenever you make a bad call, this is the natural result of it, and people are going to get salty about it, and people are going to be like, people are going to question you in the future about a lot of stuff that you make. Just like if I make a bad call and it's not justifiable, a lot of people are not going to trust me as much as they used to, and in regards to my perspective and my scope. I have to be held to the same level of responsibility as those who are featuring themselves on TV, because a lot of people are taking what I'm doing for my job as I am a representative of somebody in the field, you know? So I have to take on that responsibility. So naturally, I would just want judges or adjudicators in the show to also hold themselves to that level of accountability as well. That's just my overall note. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I was helpful in some way. With this one, this is one of my very first, like, very, not emotional, but more, it's about my personal feelings and my personal preference, not mostly from, it's not as much of an objective lens, but I do have natural objectiveness about it because of the analysis that I've done. I try to approach it in that way, but really coming at it from a human standpoint and from somebody who has heard about these calls and empathize with how bad a call can influence how you feel about yourself. I really felt like this was just a really good conversation that I feel like we would want to have. And I know a lot of you have been wanting these types of videos too, of me just talking about my personal opinion versus just analyzing content. And so I'm appreciative that you guys like me enough to even want something like this. And I hope that I didn't come across as disrespectful or overly upset, because I'm not. My tone a lot of times may just feel that I'm very heated, but it's mostly just I'm very passionate about dance, and I'm passionate about what we all love about it. And I just want to continue sharing it with everybody, and so that's really fun. I'm Jess. If you want to see more Street Fighter content, I have it all over YouTube, but if there's something that's missing on YouTube, good chances on Patreon due to copyright, especially from that first Street Woman Fighter series. I am, as this point in time, I'm reacting to Street Dance Girl Fighter, so make sure you tune in to that. It's always really nice to see mentors and mentees, that kind of relationship growth, because that's similar to more so my scope, because I work with students a lot. So it's gonna be really fun. I will catch y'all on the flip side. Bye.